I'm Danny, and this is the Scream Princess podcast. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the Scream Princess podcast. Today, I'm joined by a lovely friend of mine, a guest here, Spencer Hawken. And Spencer is a man of many talents. He's kind of got fingers in all kinds of pies, and most of them set in Romford. And we've got the Romford Film Festival coming up very, very soon, or Romford Horror Festival. So we're going to chat all about those things. Hello, Spencer. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm okay.
Good,
I'm having a day, but no, we're all good. We're here. We're gonna have some fun. This is
good.
what's important. And you're like probably one of my most interesting guests so far because you do so much. So do you want to just I don't know where to start.
There's the perception that I do a lot, but actually I don't do very much at all. I'm quite lazy. Um, but I'm like the former everything. If you can call it former anything, it should sit before my title. So former filmmaker, former film reviewer, former radio host, former podcaster, former vodcaster, former actor, yeah,
Okay.
former everything. But I have kind of settled into a place where I am now someone that runs film festivals
Yes.
who has found themselves in a situation where in 5.5 weeks' time, I also run a cinema.
Which is very exciting. And it was a very kind of quick development.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, we say it's quick. Um, so Premier Cinema shut on August the 16th, which was the cinema prior to us taking it on.
So the cinema in
And
the
I,
Mercury Mall in Romford.
that's correct, yeah. And and I think by the time we got to the 21st,
Mhm.
we knew that I was going to take it on. And then by the time it got to October and Premier Cinema had got all of their stuff out of there, we knew at that point in time that it was like we'd reached the point of no return. We're going to open up this cinema and we're going to transform it and we're going to give people a taste of something different in a rural, not rural, but a sort of like a London, it's a London suburb, Romford, at the end of the day.
Well, it is, and now Romford's on the Elizabeth line. So obviously, London. I don't. How long has the Elizabeth line been going now? A couple of years. So there's a new
Yeah,
tube line, and Romford is now on it. So it's so much more easy to get to from London these days by just
yeah.
jumping on the tube. It's like half an hour from Stratford, I think.
Yeah,
No, that's
yeah. I mean,
amazing.
it is that straightforward. I think
Mm.
it's 29 minutes from Liverpool Street.
Oh, okay. So it's less than half an hour from Stratford. So I used to
Yeah,
live in Bow, so I would have gotten
yep.
the DLR to Stratford and then jumped on the Central line from there.
And then literally now, what you can do is you can get on the train at Reading, go
Mm.
all the way to Paddington, get off the train, stand exactly where you are, and
Mhm.
wait for the next train to come, and that'll bring you all the
And
way
that will
through
bring
to
you,
Romford.
which is great. So you're going to be creating, not it's not just going to be a cinema, it's not just going to show, the latest films. You're going to have all sorts of things going on there.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to have 4 screens of the mainstream stuff that
Mhm.
every cinema's showing.
Mhm.
And then we're going to have a screen that's dedicated to independent film. And then we will have a screen that is dedicated to classic film. And when I say classic film, we now regard 2023 as classic. So everything back from 2023 back to the 1920s.
Okay.
And then on another screen, we're going to specialize in those sort of films that you would normally have to go to Leicester Square to see
Mhm.
because they have a very limited release. So
The
rather
films
than,
like
sorry,
it's films that are kind of screened at maybe the Prince Charles that have,
yes,
yeah, a smaller release.
yeah, yeah, we're very much kind of like targeting the Curzon audience.
Mm.
So we want that sort of those little art house films that I always use the Banshees of Inisherin as, and I've probably pronounced the name of the town incorrectly, but I always use that as a good example. Romford didn't screen that film until
Right.
2 months after it was released.
Okay.
So we would be getting those films as and when they come out rather than waiting until they grow in popularity that they spread out to Romford.
Yeah, so super exciting. The cinema's going to be called Lumiere, and there is a crowdfund
Yes.
running at the moment. So I'm going to put the link for the crowdfunder at the end of this. And it's
Thanks
such a
very much.
worthwhile cause, and it's like kind of really championing independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
So not just horror, but all kinds of filmmakers. But if you can dip into your purse and support it, then it would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean that any donation at all is fantastic. And the
I did
thing
notice
being is,
there's one of the perks is to name a seat. So I think I'm going to jump on that one.
yeah,
I think I'm going to name a seat.
yeah, why not? We've had people that have donated seats to loved ones who've passed and
Hmm.
they want a message on the seat. And then we've got people who will have their own seats. And then they have people, we had some people that bought seats at Christmas as a Christmas gift for
Yeah, that's
somebody.
nice.
And the thing with those seats is even if the seat dies, we'll take that plaque off and we'll put it on the seat that replaces it.
Oh, so there is going
So
to be plaques on the seats. I'm just actually going to name one after me. I'm not going to donate it to anybody
do
else.
it.
It's just going to be my seat. Like,
Danny Thompson, the
yeah,
seat.
yeah. I mean, what can it just have your name on it? Can it have a little bit more on it?
You can do, yeah, yeah, you will be able to. And you could turn around every time you turn up and you have a screening in that auditorium, you can turn around to people and say, excuse me, that's my seat.
Like literally,
Can't
that's
you
my
see it's got
seat.
my name on it?
Yeah, I like the idea of that. Like when you go to BAFTA, the seats have names, and you're like, whose
Yeah.
seat am I in? So that's
Yeah.
quite exciting.
And we've got some really quite big names that will have seats there, which has been quite a surprise to us. So
Oh,
it'll be interesting to look at who your seat is named for.
yes, that is
And
exciting.
that's the thing. I mean, we do want to make it feel a little bit different. We want to, I used the description earlier on today.
Mhm.
Premier Cinema was a flea pit. It was a nice flea pit, but the truth of the matter is, it's what you and I would have called, maybe not so much you, but what I would have called in my youth a flea pit. And we want to try and change that, and we want to make a kind of almost like everyman experience.
Yeah, so
So
a
we're,
bit of a posher upmarket cinema.
yeah,
I know I liked the premiere. Like I like an independent cinema as opposed to like the big chains. So
yeah.
it kind of feels nice. It's kind of smaller. But how many screens do you actually have there?
So we've got 8, but we're going to get rid of one, and we're actually going to turn it into a lounge area.
Hmm.
So when we have the festivals, people are going to be able to go into the lounge area and for signings and things like that.
Perfect.
So we have like all the stars, as you're aware, that come and down, and they'll sign. They'll be able to get their autographs in there. But then it'll also be used for community space. So we've got a board games club; they can meet there. We've got an LGBT club; they can meet there.
Mhm.
People can there'll be a Monday night film quiz in there. Bit of cabaret, bit
Nice.
of burlesque.
Oh,
So
my burlesque days are long over, so I'll be sticking to the films.
my burlesque days are over too.
No more tassel twizzling for me. It was a
Yeah, no,
short-lived career, actually. I did it for about 5 minutes, and I realized I don't like doing choreography. Like if someone else choreographs it, I can do it. But if I have to choreograph, I slowly
yeah,
lose the will to live. So yeah, that was that.
yeah. No, I get that, and I think it's you as you travel through life, you get to do the things more that you enjoy because you kind of follow that, don't you? You
Yeah.
follow that line. Your acting has taken you through quite a considerable quite a considerable period of time
Yeah, I mean,
now,
I've been
hasn't it?
at it for a while since I think I graduated from drama school in 2010, I think. So yeah, so 15
And
years.
I think, and am I right in thinking I think the first film that I would have seen you in was it Zombies versus Strippers?
No, it was Zombie Women of Satan 2.
Oh,
So it could have
I knew
been
there
that
was
one.
some
I
zombies
don't
in
think
there
I'm in one
somewhere.
called Zombies versus Strippers.
Okay,
No.
okay. I thought, no, see, look, this
I
is the
should have
level
been
of
in it. I mean, it sounds
what,
like a title that I would do, but yeah, no, I haven't.
mate.
No, you know what? Zombies versus Strippers. Is that not a fake poster from Video Shop, Tales of Terror? I'm not sure.
No, 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 no. It was Lucinda
Ah,
Rhodes, and it was oh god, like a load of sort of like former gangster type actors
Oh,
and
okay.
actresses. Um, I don't know why. I was convinced you had a tiny part in that, but there you go. I'm wrong.
No,
Apologies.
I have played a stripper in one of Lucinda's films, which was a very tiny part. I think I may or may not have had a word to say. But I don't think it was a zombie film. But then it could have been. I thought
You'll
it
have
was
to
just
check your
gangster.
IMDb. You've got so many credits, you don't know what you're up
I
to.
don't know what I mean. I often don't know what I mean, or I've forgotten that I've done something, and somebody will tell me, and I'm like, I don't think I'm in that, and they're like, no, you definitely are. Oh, okay. But yeah, I've been in a few things that have screened at Romford. So there's the Romford Film Festival, and then there's the Romford Horror Film Festival. So the Romford
Yes,
Horror is coming up. It's the 27th of February to the 2nd of March. Tickets
that's
are now
correct.
available on the website. Again, I will put the links at the end. Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, you can either get daily passes. Can you get passes just for single films, or is it just like the day
Yes.
passes or the full festival? Right.
Yep, yep. So we're slowly announcing the films because what I try to do is I try to let Horror on Sea get out of the way a
Hmm.
little tiny bit before we start announcing the individual films. But we put the
Right.
day. So what we've done so far is we've announced the classic films that we're screening. There's quite a lot this year,
Hmm.
and we've announced 50% of the guests that we've got. So we're currently selling day passes, full festival passes, and the occasional film pass for films
Hmm.
that we know we're definitely showing as and when. And then, yeah, as I said, from next week we start revealing what films we're showing from the submissions that have come to us.
Yeah.
And this year we've had probably about 3 times as many submissions as we had last year.
Wow.
So it's going to be very, very hard to pick. Although, that being said, we have about 180 slots available.
Right.
So,
So you haven't actually fully picked yet. You
nope,
still, so it's an
still picking.
ongoing process.
So, the deadline was New Year's Eve for
Okay,
submissions.
that doesn't give you a long to watch the films, does it?
No, no, no. It's good because I mean, obviously, we start watching the films from the minute they're submitted.
Mhm.
So some people are really far ahead.
Right.
And because we open as soon as we shut, some of our selectors actually watched the films like last January the 2nd or January the 3rd for this
Right.
year. Um, so, yeah, and it just gives people long enough to actually make decent informed decisions
Mm.
on what they're selecting.
Okay.
We make sure there's seven. Well, I don't know if you can see that seven. We
Seven.
make sure there's 7 people that watch every single film
Right.
before it's selected, because we want to make sure there's some balance.
Hmm.
And we've got a variety of people that actually do the selection. So they might be filmmakers, they might be film reviewers, they might be film masters because of their master's degree. Um,
Pat
so
Higgins?
yeah, sorry.
Pat Higgins, he's just submitting for his masters, I think.
Ah,
I'm not sure. I don't know who your film masters are. I was trying to guess.
My film masters are actually Peter and Carrie.
Ah.
They're both highly qualified film type people,
Hmm.
whereas me, I'm just like some rough old git who fell into film.
So how did you fall into film? How did it begin for you?
1989,
Right?
I set up a video shop.
Oh.
So I had a video library, a little bit like Video Shop Tales of Terror,
Mhm.
without the death
Without the death.
and without the death. And what I used to do is I had like this little back room, and people could watch all the video nasties in the back room, and it was like some sort of
That's really
secret.
cool. I like that.
Um,
A
so
bit
when
like
the
Video Shop Tells the Terror.
Yeah, so you'd sit in the back room on a sofa, you'd rent the film, but you wouldn't actually take the film away, and you'd watch it, and it was kind of like an undercover kind of thing.
So was that
And
legal?
no, of course not.
Oh,
Of course not.
of course not.
Completely illegal. I
Isn't
mean,
it
really,
mad that films actually got banned? Like they actually were banned.
if I'd been discovered, I would have got anywhere between a £50,000 fine and 5 year
Jesus.
prison sentence. But
Wow.
it was kind of worth it. And what made it even more fun is at the time I was living in Portland in Dorset.
Hmm.
So this little tiny island had a video shop that had a back room that was not selling, but showing all the most horrendous films that you could find.
But I've
And that
seen some
was
of the video nasties, and like by today's standards, they're not actually that horrendous at all, are they? I
no,
think, for the time, maybe they were very shocking, but for this day and age, there's like crazy stuff out there. So I think that comes from like people being able to make films so easily now. It's so accessible to become a filmmaker because anybody has access to some sort of camera, and people are making everything. And I suppose if you want to shock now, you have to go above and beyond.
absolutely. I remember a time where one of the films that I showed, the audience was always tiny, like two or three people, and they had control of the video recorder, so they could just sort of push pause at any point in time. And I always remember we showed a film, and I can't actually remember what the film was, but the people kept pausing the film and having to go outside and have a fag because it was traumatizing them so much.
Yeah.
But I do remember watching it in the early 2000s and thinking to myself, what on earth did they see that I'm not seeing?
Yeah. You're just
But
not as easy to scare.
absolutely,
I've
absolutely.
been in the cinema before actually when people have walked out because it's scary. Like they're jumping
Yeah.
from screams and they've walked out. I think it was what's the one with I can't remember what it was called now. That's not that much help because I actually can't think of the name of the film. I was going to say there's a baddie in it that drives a truck.
Oh, Joyride. The
No,
one where
no,
no,
but I have seen that. That's got Paul Walker in it, hasn't it? So I have seen
yeah.
that. No, Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Does he drive a truck?
yeah. He does, and
Yeah.
it's the registration number is Beat Me,
Is it?
yeah, or something like that, or Eat Me, or something like that.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah, I thought there was
I
a truck
watched.
involved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a great film. Just saying about the sinister backstory.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
So,
yeah,
do
no,
you think people knew? Like, do you think like the authorities knew, like, and just turned a blind eye, like the police, because they don't really care about stuff like that. They must be like, well, look, it's
no.
spooky.
I think the community kept it a secret because they knew that if they spread the word too far,
Mm,
that little club had gone. And I think so. I think it was like something like 72 video nasties, and I had 65 of them.
wow.
So it was like the most complete collection that anybody
Mm,
could have ever got their hands on. And on top of that, I was getting stuff that was being sent in that had never even seen the BBFC.
mm,
People were sending it to me from Spain and Germany and wherever. And these were like proper bootleg videos, it
mm.
was just like, TDK, something or other. And
Yeah,
you just chuck it in and it'd be like, oh, what's this?
this is grainy.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'd end up with some really weird ones. So I always remember receiving one called Toilet Face, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I thought, it could be, you know,
That
some
sounds
sort of
like
weird
dodgy
extreme
paws.
horror. But it was, yeah, it was the other. It was
Oh,
very much the
mm,
other.
that's
Um,
nasty. That is a video nasty.
that quickly ended up in the
But
arrays to record something else on it. Bit of tape over that hole.
I saw a really interesting short actually recently. I was judging the West Country, Black Country Horror
Yeah.
Short Festival, and there was a film about discarded videos. It was like and getting
Okay.
taped over, and it was like an
Yeah.
animation. I don't know if you've seen that one. If you
Oh, it's really. It might be in this year's selection. So what happens is,
um,
I don't start watching until about 2 weeks from now.
hmm,
The selectors watch now, so they reduce my workload, and then
hmm,
I watch the films because during the film festival, I'm probably going to be doing the interviews on them.
Was it that one or no? It was either there. I either saw it there or I saw it at a film festival in the Northeast that I went to. So it was one of them, but I think it was my favorite one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good talent out there and a lot of really good ideas at the moment. I think COVID gave people time to sit down and
Yeah.
think a little bit more. because if we're going to be completely honest with you, like people were churning out some real bad horror up until COVID.
Hmm.
And I think people refined their art a little tiny bit because they had so much time
Yeah.
on their hands. They focused a little bit more on the edit.
Yeah, I've
And I
never
think
been
that's so
so
important.
busy as like the year after COVID. So obviously everybody was writing and doing all the pre-production stuff that they possibly could. And then I had like the super busy year or 2 years after COVID, just like constant work,
You
which is
seem to permanently be in the Mercury in Romford, didn't you?
yeah. Yeah, so we have filmed all sorts of bits and pieces around there, and I always used to go to the toilet in the cinema, and
Yeah.
I the amount of costumes that they must have been like, well, what is she doing today? Like, I went in there dressed as a Nazi once, and then like the next time I was in a night dress, and then it was like covered in blood. And then the people that go to the cinema must, I mean, that one I must have looked like some like escaped mental patient, like wearing it was one of those big old white style 90s, and there was blood on it. So. And I think I've gone
Am
in.
I right? Am I right in thinking that there was only one segment of video shop that you weren't in?
Yes. So I was a cameo in the Mary Whitehouse one. I wasn't actually in it. They used obviously they were watching a video nasty, so I was on the video nasty. And I did three of the other segments. I think Tom Lee Ratter's, Michael Fausti's, and Andrew Elias. So I think those were the three, and then obviously the cameo in Mary Whitehouse. But I'm not actually in any of the segments in Video Shop 2. I'm in the wraparound. But it's a bit of
Right.
a sore one for me actually, because I wasn't going to go to Horror and see this year. And then I've thought, well, maybe I could go for the second weekend. But the only film I'm in is Video Shop, and I've just had a little breakup, and he's in it, so I kind of don't feel like I can watch it without crying. So I don't know if I'm probably going to go to Horror and See just for like to catch up with people and just
Yeah.
get out of my space for a little bit. But yeah, I'm not actually going to be able to watch the film, so I can come and like do it. I can go and do an intro, and then that will kind of be it. And I guess the
Yeah.
same with Romford. I don't think I'll be feeling better by then either. So I will come along, and I'm happy to do intros and I'm happy to do Q&As, but I don't think I can watch the film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, but Horror on Sea is a great place to just hang out in the
Mm.
bar as well, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
there's always someone to talk to,
Do you know, I
always
actually
really good
managed to get
people.
through it last year, and I did dry January last year, and I actually managed to stay dry at Horror on Sea because usually I'll do dry January and it breaks at Horror on Sea because it's like the bar. But yeah, I
Yeah,
managed to stick with it last year. And I stayed in London the whole time. I stayed with some friends, and I managed to get a cold like in between. So I think it was like the Friday, the second weekend for Friday. I was fine in the morning. Throughout the day, I was starting sniffling in the cinema, and by like the end of it, I was just like so ill. And then I had like the Saturday and the Sunday, I couldn't actually go into any of the screenings because I was like sneezing and I just kind of, but I had had a flight booked, so I couldn't change my flight, so I kind of had to stay. So I'm hoping
yeah,
I don't get ill now. I think that's the thing. I left London, and the few times I've been back to London, one of the times I came back and I had got COVID. So I think my immune system isn't as good as it was when I was in London. I think when you're in London, you're used to all the germs,
yeah,
and I'm in the northeast now, so it's all kind of fresh air, and I don't really see that many people. Well, I had a cold for Christmas actually. I did have a cold last week, but I have recovered. But yeah, my immune system's like taken a battering, I think. It
I
was,
when I lived in the West Country, I was in the same boat. I
mm,
mean, I'm sick all the time now, but then I'm sick because I've obviously reached a certain part in my life where, you just find yourself a victim for everything.
it's
You're
falling
just getting
apart.
old. Yeah. But when I lived in the West Country, the colds I used to get down there were horrendous. And again, it's because you're kind of isolated, you're kind of out of
Yeah.
the way. There's not so many people that you interact with.
Yeah, I just don't,
Maybe,
haven't got the antibodies now that I used to have.
no, no, I don't know.
Yeah, but I actually it was a great makeup that one. I was like a kind of like the Bride of Frankenstein. So I've got a wig which is similar, but I know actually in the film her hair is actually ginger, isn't it? It's like ginger Frankenstein, where
Yeah,
mine's black. So I had
right.
that, and they had me in a wedding dress, and but I couldn't get it done up. My boobs were too big for it, so they couldn't do it up at the back. So they had to just kind of tape me into it, or maybe I got sewn into it. And I ripped off the arm of my um my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, as we stand today, unless that changes. So I ripped off his arm and I stamped out his eyeball.
Nice.
Yeah, and then he still went out of me after that.
Maybe there was a bit of foreshadowing in
So
there.
yes, I actually met him. That was the first time I actually met him was at Romford at the mall.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and then but it wasn't until I moved to the northeast and he asked me if I wanted to go on a hike. And my friends were really rubbish actually. They all said they'd go on hikes with me, and I got here and then no one wanted to go on a hike. They realized it was like energy that they didn't want to use. So I went on some hikes with him, which were incredible. We've been to some incredible places. And it is really beautiful up here. I slightly miss London because obviously, like when there's stuff going on, and it's like I can't really come down just for that. I need to kind of, it's a big expense. It's like there are a 5 hour drive each way, or it's like getting a flight, and or
Yeah.
trains are expensive. It's actually cheaper
Yeah.
to fly, weirdly,
Yeah.
is to get the train. And unless you book like certain trains, then it can be a little bit cheaper. But yeah, it's easier to fly. Well, last time I came down, my flight got cancelled, and then they last minute had to get me a train. So that was a bit of a drama.
It's that
Um,
thing though, isn't it? We were in Tenerife last week and we were talking to a filmmaker out there and he was saying that, like in the difference being when you make those moves is in London, he was a small fish in a big pond. Now in Tenerife, he is the big fish.
yeah,
And
that's
everyone wants to work with them. And the thing being is now because indie filmmaking is so creative
mhm.
and everyone's got getting the skill and everyone can afford the kit,
Yeah.
you might very well be on the cusp of leading some sort of massive northeastern
Well, who
uh
knows? I know I did. I think it was actually before I moved here, or it was just after I moved here. I was asked to do a short film with some guys up here, and I did that. And I think that's actually now become part of Video Shop too. So I think he's shortened it. It was a short film called
right,
Bloody Mary, and by Paul Doherty, and it was basically I don't really want to give it away, but it's the drink, and then she's yeah, she's saying Bloody Mary, but then it's the drink. So I just have to
right,
anyway. But yeah, they've actually shortened it and they've used it as like a fake ad because it was as she was like recording an advert.
yep,
So they've used that for video shots. So it's actually managed to sneak in there. Um,
cool,
but yeah, I've done that, and then I've met a few filmmakers up here because I've ended up judging a couple of well, I've judged one horror shorts festival, and then I've got another one, the Sunderland shorts. They've asked me to go and be a judge on the horror day as well. So that's
cool,
been, and I met the guy from that at my cousin's wedding because she's an
okay.
actress too. So yeah, so that's how that came about. But
But yeah, there's definitely a really good burgeoning creative market up there. So I
yeah.
think, you can be in there and snap it all up while you're up there.
Yes, but I mean, yeah, they're actually building big studios in Sunderland, I think. So
Okay.
I don't know when that's up and running, but yeah, I'm in the north. I'm a bit gutted that I missed out on doing Vera.
Yeah.
And I just watched the last two episodes, and they actually filmed it a lot around like South Shields. So they had like the
Yeah.
town hall was like in the first shot, and you kind of noticed there's certain bits at the beach, but there was I think someone in it fell off a cliff on the beach, and that actually is like meant to be one of the UK's biggest suicide spots, which is not so good. I love the cliffs. I think they're beautiful for like a nice walk, but yeah, it's a unfortunate place that a lot of people do end up jumping off.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful
Yeah.
beach. So
Mm.
I always think I don't know, I don't like to go on my walks first thing in the morning just in case I see anybody. Um, like and like Christmas and stuff because it's like it's that time of year, isn't it? I was like, I don't think I
Yeah.
want to go on a Boxing Day walk in the morning like I usually would. But
Yeah.
we are running out of time here. I'm going to cut this one off now and I will see you for part two.
Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Screen Princess podcast. Welcome back for part two. Hello there, Spencer.
Hello.
What were we talking about? Short film festivals and short films.
Short
Short
films
films are a
and
great
life in
way
the
of like,
Northeast.
yeah, what are they called now?
Sorry?
Are they still called short films?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I thought you told me that. I thought you were going to say there was like they're called something else now. They've had a name.
No, 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 no. Because the bit we were like, the bit when we ended, you were talking about not going for walks early in the
Ah,
morning on Boxing
yeah,
Day.
we'll
So
go. We'll be happy. We'll bring it back now. We'll bring it back to something a little bit simpler than what we left it on.
yeah.
But So also like so the filming in Romford in the mall, I think most of that mall has been in some of the films that get screened at the mall.
It's funny because it all started, so it all started with me. So I shot Death Walks back in 2013.
Mhm.
And that was my first ever role as a filmmaker, if you can call me a filmmaker. So we made that 2013. I say we shot it in 2013. We actually carried on shooting all the way up to 2016.
Mm.
And then at exactly the same time, I made another film called No Reasons, and we shot part of that in there. And then Tom Patton contacted me and he said, "Oh, he said, I saw some really interesting locations in Death
Mhm.
Walks. Can I come and shoot there?" And since then, 117, no, 118 films have been shot at the Mercury.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah,
That is a
yeah.
lot.
And it's amazing what it turns up in.
Yeah,
So you see things, suddenly you see films like quite big films, and suddenly you're just like, I know that place,
Mhm.
but they've managed to make it look a little bit different. We've, people have used back of house, people have used the area as an airport.
Yeah,
There's a film where it's shot as an airport. And yeah, the stairs at the back have been used for a military horror film.
yeah.
Um,
You've got all those
yeah,
corridors at the back that I
yeah,
would use. I used for Dragon, I think we
you
shot.
did.
I created, you had two sets that somebody else had used. So I basically repainted them. I didn't personally do it. I had a great set decorator. I did help, but I was just getting all the paint
Yep.
on the carpet. I'm useless. I'm a messy decorator. So yeah, we used that for Dragon.
And
Um,
I think the film those sets were created for were called, oh God, Dream Crawler or something like that.
yes,
Tony
I am actually
Fadil.
in that, I think.
You are.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm a I'm a cop, I think, and I have a bomb attached to me. So I haven't
Oh
seen
yeah.
it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But I think
I've
that's
seen
great.
that.
You've seen it. Did they screen it at Romford?
Well, no, what we did is we did like I wouldn't say a cast and crew. It was like
Mm.
what is it they call it? A group, um like a focus group.
Oh, okay.
So, and the idea was that we watched it, we looked through it, we made suggestions as to what changes could be made
Oh,
if
it's
they could
like a
be
test
made.
screening type thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that must have been probably about 2 years ago that we had that.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so, but there's a lot of work and a lot of money that's gone into this film, so you're going to get it right, I guess.
Oh, hang on, my screen
So,
just disappeared. There we go. For some reason, my screen just changed to another screen. I'm like, where have we gone?
that's the wonder of your cat coming in and joining you as a
Yeah,
coaster.
she's magical. She is a magical cat. The other one's asleep on the other end of the sofa. So he's all curled up. They're not usually allowed in here. I mean, it's okay
Right.
when I'm in here, but I've got shelves and things that they like to climb up and then they're knocking boxes off. And I've got spider plants in here. I had to put them in this room because it's the only room the cats don't really come to, and they're forever trying to kill my spider plants.
I mean, why not? If that's a cat or dog's prerogative.
Yes.
I don't let the dog in this room because the dog likes to come in here and find things to trash.
Mhm. They're not too bad. They actually leave the rest of my plants alone. It's just these ones, and I guess they're too tempting. And my dish sponges. So my dish sponges have to live in a Tupperware tub with the lid on because they steal the sponges, and you find little ripped up bits of sponge everywhere. Yeah, that's the only two things that they kind of really like to.
Yeah.
And they're only young. They're only 8 months, so
Okay.
they're still babies. We have to
Bless them.
forgive them. And this
Yeah.
is the naughty one. She climbs curtains. She looks like she's the
Yeah.
one that looks like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, and she's super gentle, but she's a devil.
Yeah. Our dog is. He's probably about the same age, and he was actually born the day after my birthday.
Oh,
And so won't ever forget his birthday. I've never had a dog that I've known the birthday of
oh,
because all
really?
my dogs previously have always been rescue dogs.
Oh, yeah, of course. So then
So
their birthday's like the day you got them.
yeah, well, so now we can have a joint birthday party, me and the dog.
I had a birthday party for my dogs. Well, I had a couple. I actually had when we had the Chihuahua, I actually had a Mexican party, and obviously it was more for the people. There was a piñata in the kitchen. We had margaritas and made chili, and there were tacos. And then another one, I did like an outdoor picnic because it was the summer, and we had like cheese and pineapple on sticks and like cocktail sausages and things. So yeah. I don't know.
Sounds
I'll have
sounds
to look at
ideal.
birthday for the cats. I think they're April the 15th, maybe, or
Okay,
something. I've,
awesome.
I've got it saved in my phone.
So, but yeah. So, what? I know you're asking me questions, but how are you finding life in the Northeast?
I was loving it up until a couple of days ago. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean it's different. It's a much like more chilled pace. The thing is like I'm not really working very much, which is why I've got like time to do the podcasting. I thought I need to give myself something to do,
yeah.
because there is less work up here. So yeah, it's not as much work, but I was loving like life. I mean, I've loved the hikes. I've been to, so many incredible places. There's lots of like National Trust and English heritage type places up here as well. So obviously, like in the winter when you can't really hike so much, I've been going to those. So it is lovely, and I was having a lovely time. And then my life all kind of blew up a couple of days ago. So I'm a bit fragile at the moment. So other than that, I was loving life, and I'm sure I will
Your
love
cats
life.
will your cats will put you back on the right path.
They will. The cats will. Yeah. I think they knew something was up. Like when I came in, I stayed at my friend's last night. Um, And then I came in this morning and I like crawled back in bed and like the boy one was like licking my face and he was like, "Where have you been? What's up? Where's daddy?" But it's what it is.
Pets are very intuitive
Yeah,
and good support and levelers.
they are. They are. Although they're just asleep now. They've both gone to sleep. She's gone to sleep on my she's actually gone to sleep on my notepad. So if I actually needed my notes, then that would be tricky. It would be tricky.
So,
So yeah, we've filmed a lot in the back rooms have been filmed in. So you were just basically rotating people, weren't you? It was like
yeah.
they'd take the set, they'd use the set, someone else would come in and do something. And I think I was the last one though. I think you scrapped that because I didn't have to.
Yes. Yeah, I think we've had there's a young filmmaker. Well, actually, it's two filmmakers. The filmmaker that we went to see in Tenerife
Mm,
was the last person that shot in the center, and he showed us a clip on Monday morning, and it was like a dream sequence where a fantastic actress called Michelle was on stilts, but the stilts were crutches.
right.
So, and she was all like wound up in bandages. So it was like medically, and she was walking through the center
Wow.
as part of a dream sequence. Looked amazing. So, yeah. But I'm sure it'll all sort of start up again soon. And obviously, we're
Yeah.
building Lumiere with a plan to actually create filming space for
Mhm.
people to, adjust and adapt.
Yeah.
Um, because the upstairs of the cinema is vast. It's so many rooms,
Right.
so much space that we're going to redesign and redeploy
Mhm.
in new and unique ways. So
Will you
yes,
just
we
do
can.
it bit by bit, or will you kind of like will you open it and just do bit by bit, or are you going to close it, refurb a lot, and then open?
So I mean, it's going to be an ongoing process because so first of all, we're doing the crowdfunder. We're trying to raise 100K to make significant enough change that
Yeah.
when you walk in, it looks like something different. Well,
Hmm.
actually, we've raised 11. We're close approaching 12,
Hmm.
and there's going to be enough change that people are going to see the minute we open
Right.
on March the 2nd. Well, technically, we're opening on Thursday, the 27th of February,
For the
but there'll
film.
be enough change that people will go, actually, something different's
Yeah.
happening here. And then the rest of it will slowly happen over the passage of time. But we've got really good support.
Okay.
We're very in touch with the artist community. My partner Natalie,
Mhm.
she runs a like local artists um, group. It's called the No Collective, and they do all sorts of art projects
Mhm.
all over the county, both Essex and in Havering.
Right.
So she's got all these people at her disposal. Yesterday we had Hannah, who does our we do these kind of stylized photo shoots during the film festivals.
I've seen them. They look
Yesterday
great.
she took photographs yesterday of the whole place so that we've got kind of like a catalogue, and so that we can start mocking up how the rooms are going to look.
Mhm.
Everything's going to be very Art Nouveau. So lots of greys, earthy tones. Going to try and make it look like a French cinema from the 1920s.
Oh, lovely.
Um, but obviously, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're going to move through this slowly, but it's going to be something that we continue. So the main focus is the cinema itself.
Mhm.
And then once we've got everything the way we want it, we're going to focus on the upstairs and transform that space, because all of these places, they're all revenue streams.
Yeah.
We're going to make a place where people can come and make a podcast and know they're not going to be disturbed by outside noises, cars, or people at the doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of those sort of spaces are all going to be part of Lumia.
Incredible. That's really exciting. And have you designed the cocktails for this year for the festival yet? Because some of the films get their own specially designated cocktails and
Yeah.
they're kind of tailored, especially just for the festival.
So what happens is Carrie, April, and Natalie tend to sort of like Carrie watches all the films and then she tells April and Natalie what the films are. And then they get Charlotte involved, and then all of them have like a massive cocktail binge session where they all get a little bit plastered.
Amazing.
And yeah, they work on cocktails. So what happens is the cocktails are themed around independent films,
Hmm.
not the mainstream films.
Hmm.
You know, they've already had their moment of glory, but we
Yeah.
always think it's really nice that a filmmaker turns up, suddenly discovers that their film has inspired a cocktail.
Do you tell them beforehand or they only find out on
No, no, no.
the...
Normally we like to keep it a surprise. So I always remember the one that was the most popular a couple of years ago was Man, Fish and Chips. And what it was for the film Man Fish,
Yeah.
and it was
That is a great film. I love that film.
exactly, and
It's
it
so
was
different.
the cocktail looked like the sea, and then underneath the cocktail it was served with a little cone that looked like it was made out of newspaper,
Hmm.
and inside was the old fashioned, you know, the chipstick chips.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the Man, Fish and Chips.
Ah, that's exciting. I thought
Yeah.
of something I was going to say then, and it's completely gone from my mind. So, oh,
I,
I know what it was. So, at the festival, you always have some guests, so we'll talk about the guests, but you had actually the guy who did the makeup for Manfish, as the SFX makeup artist. He's
yes.
there kind of like building, modeling like masks. It's incredible.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you can kind of, it's not just like a cinema experience going to this film festival. It's like it's a festival. You get to watch the films, but you could also all kinds of other things that you wouldn't know otherwise, or you wouldn't see at a normal film
Yeah.
festival.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so that's Steve Braund, and
Right.
he's from Mind Magic Studios. And yeah, he's always carving a mask there.
Hmm.
And then you've got Paul from Midnight Media, who's selling sort of obscure DVDs and Blu-rays. And then, as you say, we've got the guests. So far, we've got three pretty big names out of Italian horror that we've
Right.
confirmed. We've got some Hammer Glamour.
Yeah. So Pauline
Um,
Piet, Caroline Munro. Anybody else from?
yeah, we're hoping to get Martine Bezic,
Right.
and we also have Eileen Daly coming.
Okay.
She's making her Romford Horror debut. Um, so yeah, but we've got a few people that we're still kind of hoping to tick the right boxes on to inspire them to come to Romford.
Yeah.
Um, but the difficulty is always that, you know, in order to ensure I can pay these people, we need to sell enough tickets. So it's like
Yes.
trying to drive those ticket sales in order
Yes.
to bring those in.
So if you can make it
But
to
yeah,
Romford, get yourself the tickets.
yes,
I
please.
had actually had Judy Matheson, so she was from Hammer, and I had her in Dragon. So she actually came and filmed in the.
Of course you did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
forgot
think you
about
were on
that.
holiday, so your staff kind of.
Always on holiday.
Yeah, you. I know. I've never known anyone to go on holiday so much as you. Literally, I can't believe I've managed to get you on the podcast. Like you've actually had a day where you're at home.
I mean, 3 days earlier, I would have still been in Tenerife.
And where are you going next? When's the next holiday?
We've got no plans because of Lumia.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, it's going to be a quiet holiday year for you then, because you're going to be busy.
yeah. So it's a strange one because we're putting ourselves in a little bit of a strange situation. So, um, your listeners probably won't be aware that I run the shopping centre, the Mercury,
Hmm.
and by becoming a tenant, my role becomes redundant as the guy that runs the shopping centre. So I have to step away from
Oh,
my paid job in order to make the cinema work. So I'm not
okay.
no longer, the landlord, so to speak. I
Right.
can't be landlord and tenant.
Oh,
So I
why
have
not?
no I have no financial security as of February.
But the cinema is going to make money, so you will. It will be a good move. And it's exciting. It's exciting. Do you know, it's more like a passion, isn't it? It's like you're doing something that you kind of really want to be doing.
The thing being with that cinema is it is. I know that everyone says cinema is in trouble at the moment, but it
Mm.
has the potential to be a gold mine.
Yeah.
But it's never had the management there
Mm.
to make it as good as it could be.
Yeah.
And I think if you change the experience and you don't just make it a cheap bums on seat experience,
Mm.
you bring the experience out into the lobby. People can come. They don't just watch films, they learn how to make films, they learn about the art of film and all these other things that can happen around the cinematic vision. And
Yeah.
that's what the cinema is going to be about. And so all this opportunity, and of course, most important, we're going to be the only place in Romford that you're going to be able to get a coffee at 10:30 at night.
Yes. There you go. We actually have a place called Beamish. It's in Durham, and it's like an old mining. It's like a theme attraction thing. It's like an old mining village, but it's got all the shops and it's got like a barbers and sweet shops and like fish and chip shops. But they've actually just opened and haven't been to it. They've opened like a 1950s cinema, and they film like they screen kind of classics there. I haven't
Yeah,
actually been to it yet, and I do fancy going along.
you definitely should. I've always heard about Beamish, but I've never actually been. It's like
I've
when
been
I
once, but I didn't get to see it all. So the day I went, we didn't
right,
get there early. And then this is years ago with my ex and his parents, and his dad made us queue at this fish and chip shop because he was like, the chips are so much better because they're cooked over like coal, like the coal like heats
mm,
the flame. Or the coal heats the oil, and we queued and like literally for about 2 hours, and it was like we missed like 2 hours of walking around time. And you know what, the chips tasted exactly the same because they're still cooked in oil, aren't they? So like they didn't taste any different for being
yeah,
cooked over coal. So yeah, I do want to go back and see it properly.
absolutely. You should. You
Yeah,
definitely
you
should.
should.
So yeah.
You should. So a French, I've never been to a French cinema, but I'm imagining it being very, very glamorous. So, and are you going to have the party this year for the festival like you usually do? I've never been to one of the parties, but
So we we only, to be honest with you, we only ever did one, and it was
oh,
kind of like a bit of a damp squib. Um, but what we did is last year we evolved it into something called horror roulette, which is
okay.
basically, it's kind of like a party, but you're watching weird and wonderful things on the screen
Hmm.
while everyone's having a drink and just hanging out and having a bit of a laugh. So
Hmm.
we tried that last year, but we are going to have, so everyone that pays into the Kickstarter for, sorry, the crowdfunder for Lumiere, we're going to have a launch party a couple of days ahead of Romford Horror
Right.
so that they can come in and see what's happened,
Hmm.
and so that we can test the facilities about that we have on offer for a live audience. We'll do tours, but yeah, mainly it'll be about networking, drinking, whatever.
Hmm.
And then, you know with Romford Horror, it's kind of party night every night in the bar.
Yes.
So
But that is
and
not the
that's not
reason I fell down the back of the stage that time. That was because there was a hole in the stage.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was nothing to do with the Prosecco.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to make sure that we have stages that don't allow for holes at the back.
Yeah, so there's a stage, and obviously the guests come up before, is it before the film or after the film, and have like a little, I guess after
Yep.
the film, have a little Q&A. And I was a bit late because I was in the bar, so everybody else is all sat on there, sat on the seats. The cinema, I don't know, maybe it was before the film. I don't know, but
I just, but you weren't the only one, were you?
no, Alex had done it. So everyone's like sat in a row. I come like running in. I climb up these stairs, and so where the stage is black, it just looks like one big stage. But there's this
Yeah.
big like kind of gap between like the cinema screen and the stage. And I walked up the stage and I went straight down the hole. Like I couldn't have done it less glamorously. I was literally a goner. But Alex said he'd done the same thing, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He managed to save himself. He didn't actually fall behind the thing, but I
Yeah.
had to just get up and walk on stage and pretend it didn't happen. I was like, I just ignore the fact that I just fell down the back of the stage. No one's got it on film though, I don't think. I'm
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that that videotape never
oh no, I
appears.
think it would be funny. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see because I feel like I just recovered. I just got up and I just continued. Um,
Styled it out.
yeah, I'd like to see it. I would definitely put it on my TikTok or my Instagram feed. I can laugh at myself and I didn't get hurt. I think I ended up with a couple of bruises, but I didn't get badly hurt, so it was fine. But yeah,
But yeah, we're gonna
definitely the whole fault, not the Prosecco's fault.
we're gonna have some permanent stages
Right.
with Lumiere, which are gonna be safe and yeah, for people that drink too much prosecco.
Well, I might if I'm coming to Romford and I'm talking to people for the podcast, I will probably not be drinking this year. So I'm definitely not
Right.
drinking at Horror on Sea because I'm doing dry January. I have to say I did have a few drinks last night at my friend's because I was like, it's heartbreak
Yeah.
Prosecco. But I'm back on to dry January today. So I failed at dry January like literally on the 3rd of January, but
Yeah.
I'm back to it. So
Natalie said that we should do dry January but in reverse.
so
So we
not
were going
dry.
to do wet
Ah, so
January,
you drink every day instead of not drink every day.
whereas the two of us don't really drink very much all year round.
Right.
So she thought maybe we'd just spend the whole of January drunk.
Maybe. I don't know how productive that would be for, preparing for the festival and Lumiere.
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
did you
Yeah.
come up with the name for Lumiere?
It was the very first commercial cinema of Romford.
Ah,
And
okay.
that was I think it was 1921.
Right.
And it lasted for 3 years.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was like the first. It was actually like a very early cinema, and it was most cinema up until that point in time was only sort of like in halls and places that were
Hmm.
shared,
Right.
whereas this was a purpose-built cinema.
Hmm.
It only had one screen, but it was a purpose-built. So we thought when we knew what we wanted to do was bring back aspects of classic cinema
Yeah.
such as classic film and the classic cinema service. So we're going to do things like put ushers in screens again.
Love that.
We're
They
going to
go
be
to wear little
serving people.
outfits, like little,
Yeah,
yeah.
we just want people to get a really nice experience from going to a
Mm.
cinema. And that's why we came up with this charity model. And
Right.
that's why and then that's when we paired actually classic service,
Hmm.
classic film. We started looking at the history of cinema in Romford, and
Right.
therefore, as I said, Lumiere.
And so obviously the name is then why it's going to be French cinema because
Yep,
Lumiere. I,
yep,
I
yep.
literally was just thinking, is he your favorite Disney character? And that's you're going to cinema after him, but I don't know. Do you
I
have a
was
favorite
like,
Disney character?
I was Disney's Lost Generation. So, do you know about the Disney's Lost
No,
Generation?
no,
Okay, so people of a certain age,
right,
you never got to see Disney films unless you went to the cinema. So
right.
there was this period of time where the only Disney films that were on TV were things like Herbie, but
I didn't
things
know that was a
like
Disney film.
well, there you go.
Good job, my
But you
cut
know
has
what
a
I mean?
lid.
But you know that things like Fantasia and Bambi and things like that, they were never shown on TV.
Fantasia was the first thing I ever saw in the cinema.
Wow.
But I don't. I think it was like yeah, like a re-release.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was very very little. I went with my
You're far
mum.
too young. You're
Yeah, I
far
went
too
with my
young for it to have been.
yeah, I'm too young for it to have seen it. That's the original, but I went with my mum and my next door neighbors who were like my kind of adoptive grandparents.
Yeah,
When we first kind of moved to England, they lived next door to us. So
yeah,
yeah, I went with them.
excellent. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I missed Disney. It just missed me. So there was that whole period where there was just nothing. And Disney had just made terrible, terrible films during the early 80s, and there
Right.
was just no output, so I never saw anything.
Hmm.
So now Disney's a bit of a weird thing for me because I missed that generation.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the princess movies when I was a kid, but I'm not into like the Pixar stuff really. Like, I haven't really watched. I mean, I haven't even seen Toy Story, but I'm not really
You and
into
me both.
the animations. I like Tim Burton stuff, but
Mm.
obviously he's horror and creepy.
Darker, much
Yes,
darker
yeah,
image.
it's much darker. I'm actually quite bright for this channel today, wearing it's actually lime green, but I think it is yellow on screen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yellow's not
yeah.
really a color that I wear. And I've noticed
Okay.
sitting here against the white wall, you know, if you get like hair frizz, it's really quite noticeable against the white wall. And I did put serum on, but my hair doesn't want to do as it's told today.
I mean, I have similar situations going on here.
It's doing its own thing today. It's
Yeah.
doing its own thing today. You don't have a strip club in the cinema, do you? Not in the cinema, in the
No,
mall. That's the one thing
no.
I need for my next film. I've got a feature written, and it's like part set in a strip club. So I need to find myself a strip club somewhere.
Well, I mean, depends on how quick you are. There might be a nightclub that's usable.
Oh, it's not going to be quick. This one's going to need quite a bit of a budget. Um,
Right. Okay.
so I need to have a think about that. It's on my to-do list. I've got lots of things on my to-do list for this year. And
Mm.
this film's actually been on my to-do list for the last couple of years, so I have had the script for quite a while.
It's good to have a to-do list, and it's good
It
to
is.
tick those things off that list, isn't
It
it?
is. So I've started the year with the podcast, and I've taught myself how to edit, which is not a thing that I
Good.
ever really did before. So I've been editing, and I didn't, and I'm amazed I managed to. I've actually launched my first episode. I'm amazed I actually managed to get it live on all the platforms. I was
Yep.
like, I feel like a little bit of a genius. So that was a win so far. So,
And it's amazing how quickly people pick it up. So I did a podcast a few years back for a little while, but
mhm.
I found that because of my what I was doing, it was quite a narrow field, and
Yeah.
I couldn't get the people to engage. Whereas if you're kind of talking about horror as a universe, that's something different. So
Mhm.
mine was about trying to encourage people to pick the right film festivals.
Right.
But weirdly enough, I did the podcast like you. I was surprised I got it on all the
Yeah.
platforms. And about 2 weeks afterwards, I went on and it had 60,000 listens.
Wow.
And I
So
was
I
like,
feel
what?
like I'm probably
Ah,
going to get more views on YouTube because it's visual. So it's like
yeah,
vodcast. And but then obviously the audio goes on the like Spotify and what have you. But I looked and I've had like one view on Spotify.
yeah.
I have had nearly
It gets
200 on YouTube.
it gets there. It just suddenly rolls and you'll be
Yeah.
good. It'll be great for you.
Well, I'm kind of going to cover all things horror and spooky. So haunted stuff, like horror, like anything. So yeah, it's not just film. It's kind of a bit
Yeah,
wider, like horror board games and all kinds of different things I want to cover. So
cool.
that's kind of on my to-do list. I've got some horror board
Excellent.
games in the house. I've got the Scream board game for Christmas. So I'll have to do that one. That's my favorite horror film. Um,
Excellent.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the board game's all about, but I'll have to read the instructions.
That's the worst part of playing a board game. You have to read the
Yeah.
instructions.
I'm funny with board games though, because like I can get really angry. I can't play Monopoly. It makes me mad. Like I get very
Yeah.
competitive. Like if you make me pay to stay in your hotel, I'm like, but why would you make me pay? I'm your friend. And yeah, it goes all a bit wrong. So I don't really play Monopoly. I like Cluedo.
Yeah.
Cluedo's always
Yeah.
fun.
I used to love Cluedo as a kid, but I don't think I've played that in 30 years now.
No, I haven't played it for years. I actually just dug mine out. I had them in a ottoman and I've just dug them out and put them under a unit
Yeah,
in the kitchen so I can actually see that they're there.
reminded they
Mm.
exist.
Yeah, so I may dig them out. I have no one to play with. So
Yeah.
the cats, just me and the cats.
Oh, well, I mean, at least there's a chance you might win.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know how. I think they just chase the pieces around, chase the pieces around the board game. But
Absolutely.
there we go. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much for giving
Thank
up your
you.
time for me. And I'm actually going to bring this one forward. I was going to launch this one as my fourth episode, but obviously we're promoting the film festival, so I'm going to actually launch this on Wednesday next week.
Lovely.
So
Thank
I
you.
think that's the 8th, so in 4 days. So I'm going to disappear off now,
Well
get
done.
my editing head on, and I will see you at Romford.
I'll see you at Southend.
Oh, you will see me at Southend then. That's even
See you
sooner.
at Southend. See you
Fabulous.
soon.